Yeah, just for the recording, let me just just review really quick. So we're working on the city's front end page. We're just getting started coding this. And the city's front end, we need to do a drop down where we select a city, and then once we grab that, we should list the cities. I'll also say we're starting this without a back end. Our back end is not set up right now, but we have we kind of just planned out early that with the back end person, with ourselves, that we're going to eventually set up a GET request to API cities to give us back a list of the cities. And if we do a GET request to API cities and then the name of the actual city, that's going to give us back our price, square foot, beds, and bath. Cool. All right. So let's just kind of set this up with React Router, our cities page. Sorry, export default cities. All right, just getting this set up with my app. So I can come in, make a page for that. So let's just call this cities. Make this element cities. So my app.js, just setting that up, make sure you import that. And then just so it's easy to get to, I can throw a link in my nav bar. Where is my... I don't have it available in here. That's strange.
Is it in nav bar or layout?
Oh, okay, yeah, const layout. Do I have am I not using this navbar component?
I think you just made it for an example, but you were doing layout primarily.
All right, thank you. Yeah, am I not? So something I could do, I want to see, am I using this anywhere? Nav bar. Yeah, use it here. That's unused. Yeah, I guess I'm not really using that. Okay. All right. So if I go back to my layout, I can add it there. Cities. There we go. There's my cities page. Cool. So that's set up. So let's go ahead and start working on this cities page. Even though we don't have our backend set up, we can do a lot of the work. I can still grab this use state, use effect. Get rid of this. React. So now when this mounts, I can get cities. So this is where I can do a try. That response equal await axios dot get API slash cities. Now this isn't going to work now because my backend's not set up, but what I can do is, this is going to give me a 404 because this is not going to be set up, but I can just do like create some dummy data for now. So here I could just like set cities in this catch. So I have this use effect. It's going like, this is, API not set up yet. So use dummy data for now. All right. And then the next thing I want to do is, that get this set up with my dropdown. Now, we decided to use Ant Design for this. Oh, another thing, what's going on? See how it's starting to get API cities? It looks like I'm in an infinite loop. Why am I in an infinite loop?
You didn't put the empty array in the use effect.
Yeah. Remember, if I use this set function from a use state, whenever I call this set function from the use state hook, it's going to recall the use effect if I don't have this empty array. So now this will only trigger this to run on mount. Cool. So now that looks like that is stopping. Cool. So the next thing I want to do is to figure out how to do a drop down in Ant Design. If they call this select or drop down. So once again, with like something like Ant Design, that, something that like semantic doesn't have, like Ant Design has like a lot of like functional, like highly functional components. So they have like a select where you can do like a multiple select box. It's pretty cool. Like all of this functionality is kind of built into here. Yeah, they have ones that like if you select one, then they'll remove them from the list. You can have like different colors. So yeah, if you're wanting a lot of functionality, I don't think semantic is the best choice. Something like ant design has a lot of functionality built into it. I think like material and bootstrap probably have some. This was my go-to with like if I was able to like choose a library, because I generally was doing more complicated UI, so it's just nice to have all this kind of functionality built in. But for this one, we just need like a pretty basic one. We don't need it to be, super fancy. So let's just look at the basic code. So it looks like this, we do select and then we give it some options. See if there's any different ways. Yeah, I think that looks fine. And then it also looks like there's a on change where we can, write a function that gets a value that's going to be the thing we selected. So this one might not be, normally I'd say, do this in code sandbox, but this seems straightforward enough that I think we can just directly put this into our project. So what I can do is come and like copy some of that, put this maybe into VS Code. I don't need like this disabled button. I don't think I want one with the default value for now. So I need to import the select. And I need to import this option. It's weird that's a different import. Now let's do it like this. See how they do this like this? They go import select from ant design and then const option from select. Let's do it like that. Cool. And then we need the handle change, which sure I'll just go ahead and copy it from here. If I wanted to just be consistent and change that to like a arrow function, just make that a const. That function into an arrow function, it would still work as the way they had it. Cool. So now let's just test that out. Now I'm going to inspect. Clear that errors. So if I click one of these, selected Jack, selected Lucy. Now notice these are lowercase and in the text it's uppercase. So it looks like here, the value, this value prop, that's what's getting passed here to this handle change function. Cool. Let's actually maybe see if something that I see that they have, I wonder. They have this loading prop. Let me just try something. I'm going to just do a select with the loading prop on here. Just kind of want to see what this looks like. Cool. So something maybe we could do, just since we're doing an API call to get this data, maybe while it's loading, we can do a select with loading with no options. And then once our data does load, we can throw in our options. So let's try doing something like that. Cool. Couple ways I could do this. So I could have, instead of setting cities to a empty array, let's just set this to null. So when this page loads, city is going to be null. And then I can do like, I'll do this in a function just to keep it cleaner. Render select. I'm going to say if we don't have cities, let's return this. All right, else. Let's go ahead and do our select, and I can keep the width the same here. Let's just for now, just return this hard-coded array. Just kind of doing these small steps at it, like one step at a time. Render select. Oh, that's not returning. I need to actually return that. Okay. If I wanted to make this so I could see this, because this is going really quick, let's just do a little review of set timeout to like simulate a longer API call. So remember, set timeout is a function whose first argument is a callback function. And then the second argument is how long you want to wait until you call the callback function in milliseconds. So let's do 2000 milliseconds. So in 2000, it's going to wait 2 seconds and then it's going to call this function. And so inside of this function, I want to call get cities. So that's just me waiting 2 seconds to call this get cities function. Then if I hit refresh, see now I have this nice little spinning UI while it's loading. And then once it's loading, you can select it. See, and while it's spinning, like it's saying, look at that, it even says like no data. I bet you we could probably even change that. But let's just stick with this for now. Cool. So now the next thing we want to do, instead of just, manually adding these, we're going to want to actually use our cities. So here we could do our cities.map. Actually, I want to leave one of these so we can kind of see it. So let's go through each city and return this. I'm just going to do this as a Okay, now I'm missing a curly bracket. This is always fun trying to figure out what you're missing. Does anyone see it? This again. Okay. Cities.map. We're going to do our option value. It's probably just going to be the city. And then inside of here, we'll have the city as well. I need to interpolate that. There we go. So we hit refresh. We have a loader. We come through and then we have our cities. And when we click on them, it's saying I selected one of them. Maybe like it's selecting Draper, uppercase Draper. Maybe I'm gonna wanna like lowercase those. So I could do like a, I think in JavaScript it's downcase, or is it lowercase? Oh, it's two lowercase. So what I could do here is, if I wanted that to like send that back, do it two lowercase. So now if I select something like SLC, when I select it, it's going back as lowercase, but in the UI, it's uppercase. Cool. All right. So there's our Dropbox. It's nice. We got a nice little spinner. We have you know, our event hooked up. So now we can just keep going. So what I can do is we could have something like this. We could have like a city state. I'm going to set that to null too. And what we could do here in our handle change, we can still log it, but let's do a set city to value. We could do something like this. Maybe we'll make it render city function. So I could say like, if not city, do something like this, return something like this, like please select the city, or like no city selected. Else we could just return. Just for now, so like just show our city. So here we have no city selected. If we come in here and then select the city, now we have Draper selected. Actually, I'm not gonna do this C dot to lowercase here. I'm just gonna do that before the Axios call. So here we can set the city, but here we can also now do our API call to get city data, right? Make this function async. Okay, do our try catch. That response equal await Axios.get. Remember, this one's going to be API city, and then I need to interpolate this. And then the city, because here we set the city, and then we're going to use that. Now for this one, I'm probably going to switch this in 1 second. I kind of want to show one thing here. And then I'm kind of switch this up. So there's kind of a little bit of an issue here with how I'm doing this. So I'm setting the city here. And then I'm going to try to use that state right here. I think this is some issues people have run into before with the use state hook. Let's just do a little review of this and just kind of see it, and then we'll fix it. So I also need another, okay. So I'm going to refresh my page. Could also fix this key issue here really quickly. So that is just when I'm doing this map function in my option, it wants a key. So I'll just have that be the city as well. Something unique. Okay. Cool. So this is my 404 because that route's not defined. I'm going to come in here and select the city. I'm going to select Draper. That's a 404 because it's not defined, but notice the URL is API city and then null. Because my city I set as null at the start. If I set this as like yo, and then do like Draper, see, it's using that old state of yo. Remember with this use state hook that even though I'm setting it right here and then trying to use the value, like this is like the set city is like an async call. It's not going to happen right away. And that's something that React chose to do because it's like an efficiency thing behind the scenes. So city is not going to be set. So what do I want to use here instead of city?
Value?
Yeah, if I use, because value is the city. So if I use value, that one's going to be the right one. So if I select SLC, now that's SLC. Now this is where I probably want to do like also the two lowercase. I don't know. I'm not sure how we're going to store this in our database or how we're going to search, but I think for now, it's probably a good idea. Let's just lowercase that. If I select one, Did I get rid of that? How come I'm not getting that error? I feel like that is not, I should be getting the 404. Let's see, did I do something wrong here? So I put value back there. What's going on there? It's not like me calling. Let's try doing this. Let formatted city equal value dot to lowercase. Oh, you know what? Okay, let's do this. Let's actually go back. 'Cause I think I know it. So something a little strange is going on here. Because it was working with value, but when I tried doing the to lowercase, selecting Draper, like it's not doing that. I should be getting a 404 error, right? Because it's not found. So something that's happening here is, I think because I'm catching, like, is it too lowercase? I don't know, something weird's happening here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to console.log the error here. Let's get our data. And there we go. Value dot to lowercase is not a function. It's to, yeah. So what I did there, and this is something you want to avoid. Like you never want to do this. It's pretty bad to have a catch statement that doesn't have anything inside of here. Because this is gonna say, hey, catch any error that occurs and then run this block of code. Well, if I don't do anything here, I'm not going to know that error occurred. So for example, if I get rid of this try catch, let's move this up here, and I run this, I get that error. But since I threw that in the try catch and didn't have anything inside of the catch, well, it runs the catch, but it doesn't do anything. Which is problematic because now I select Draper, it's not doing my API call, and it's also not telling me something went wrong. So whenever you have an error, at least do like a console dot, do an alert or like a console.log just to prevent that kind of thing. So they can be like, oh, I spelled lowercase wrong. So let's fix that spelling. To lowercase, refresh, get my data, select Draper, cool. There's my 404, but when I look at that API city Draper, that's looking good. That's what I want that Axios call to be. So what I can do now is do like a const dummy city data. Let's call this like city. Let's call this city properties because that's really what it is. So remember, this is going to be in an array of objects that has like square foot, beds, ads, and price. It's a little different. And looking at this, I don't know, maybe I really don't need this city state. I might, well, let's just keep it anyway. But I am going to set this to null. But I do want some, what I'm going to call city property state. So city properties and set city properties state. What I can do inside of my handle change is when I get my Axios call, I can set city properties to res.data when that actually is set up to work. But for now, I can also do this in my catch to set city properties to like that dummy city properties, just so I can have some data to work with. So if I test this out, I can go ahead, select the city. I could maybe even go into like my components. See if that state is set, and it looks like I am setting my city state or my city property state. Cool. So now I kind of want to go through and see how to render those. If I look at like the React app, it's just a table. We've already done a table, so let's try doing something else. Let's maybe do like a card. I know we've done a card, but let's try doing a different card. Let's try finding a card. So if I do a command K, not a command F, I want to do a command K. Card. Cool. Let's maybe do something like this that has like an image, because maybe we can pull like an image of a house. Maybe eventually later we could maybe be thinking, oh, we could have like an image of the agent that property belongs to. But let's go ahead and just, I'm going to pull out this card. So this one I might want to open up in Code Sandbox because there's some stuff I want and some stuff I don't want with this card. So I can open this up in Code Sandbox. And kind of maybe explore with this a little. So let's see with the actions. I don't know, maybe this is not. I kind of want something with like a footer. Do they have anything with a footer? So those are just going to be actions. Oh, see, I guess we can get rid of these actions. See what that looks like. Cool. So for our title, yeah, this card is not really customizable. So you can kind of look at kind of maybe some of their props. Order in action, card grid, card meta. Something else I could maybe do is like, say, cards demos or examples. Maybe look at other people's code sandbox. All right. I'm surprised that I kind of want like a footer where I can throw in like the number of, kind of show you. I wonder if I can just come in here and do like a paragraph and do like 12. All right, let's see what, so let's look at their icons. Let's see what we can do. See if they have like a bed. No data. Path. What else can we use for a bed? This might be hard. Pillow. Hmm. I don't want to do custom icons right now. We could, I'm sure we could go in and find like a bed icon and like a bath icon square footage. So for now, we could like throw that in like our to do. But let's say like we did want at least like see what this looks like. Oh, this one we could throw in a custom one. Hard SVG. Let's try doing just like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this SVG, kind of try to figure out how to do it with this. So kind of, let me show you what I'm kind of thinking of. So we can get a SVG. An SVG is just like a HTML element that like draws out a shape. It's just a weird way to draw out a shape. And then it looks like with that, what we're going to do is we can create an icon using their icon component. So I'll do that here. And then what I want to try to do is maybe use this. So I need to import icon. I want to see if I can use this right here. Cool. So that's a way how I can, because I'm sure I could find like a bed SVG. Let's go bed SVG. Go in. There's a bed. Let's just download that one. Can I just see it? I'm not going to do this right now, but so what I could do is go find like a bed, like the SVG code for like a bed. So I could wrap that in, you know, a function. Then I can use the component to do that. And then I could go ahead and use that as my footer. Maybe I'll do that like during the break. I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time like Googling. So for this, I'm just going to do my beds, baths, square footage. Get rid of these. And for the house, maybe for the title, I give it the price. And, you know, eventually maybe we could do like the agent name here. And then that could be, you know, maybe like down the road, we're kind of thinking, oh, we're going to have an agent picture. We could get we could eventually throw the name in here. And I could do the price, and then we'll have a picture of the house. So I could do like a house images. Open image, new tab. Let's copy this URL. There we go. There's my little card that I came up with. I could like throw this as a to-do because that's not going to be in our database call. But I've got this looking how I want it to look. And this is, you know, how like, especially when working with a, you know, like a component library, you're going to be spending a lot of time kind of figuring this stuff out. Because it's never really going to be the case that like their components match exactly what you want. So there's a lot of like trial and error. But now that this is done, I can go ahead and, you know, let's see here. You can just kind of copy a lot of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a component in VS Code. And once this is done, we'll take a break and then I'll push this up to GitHub. So I'm going to put this in my components folder. I'm going to do this, like call this property card. Just going to take all of that and paste it inside of here. Get rid of the stuff I don't need. I don't need React DOM or the CSS stuff. I do want all of this. I don't want this React DOM render. This is what it's going to return. This is going to be my component const property equals this. Document.get element by ID. Cool. Export default. So what I'm going to do is in my cities page, let's just go ahead and render one for now, property card. So the data is hard coded for now, but let's just see if it's working. So we did all that work in Code Sandbox. Now can it work in mine? Cool. So now I have that one card rendering. And now I need to go through and map this. So, and this one, I don't think I'm going to have to normalize the data, because this is how I'm kind of planning on getting the data back. And I think this is going to be, we're not going to need to change this for now. So what I can do is in my render city method, and just go ahead and do this. I can do my city properties.map, CP. For each city property, return this property card. So now I'm rendering those 3 cities, but it still has the hard-coded data. So what I need to do is I need to pass all of those key value pairs as props to this property card. So I can just do that, spread out over them. And remember, this is what I'm kind of expecting that to look like: square foot, beds, bath, and price. So now my property card, I can grab all of those from props. Const square footage, price, beds, and baths. And then I can just use those where those needs to be. So this is beds. This is baths. This is square footage. Or the title, I can just interpolate this. I want that $sign there. Keep the $sign there. And then another $sign, because now I'm interpolating the price. Oh, I need to set these equal from props. And then I'll also throw like a to do here, like, get SVGs for bed footage. I think for that, like maybe like a ruler would maybe work for a square foot icon. Now we're looping over our properties. We're using the actual data. One other thing you might want to change is with this, then we can take a break. I wonder if there's a card group. Nope. I might want to throw these into a grid. So does anyone remember like how semantic they use a 16-point grid, right? So Ant Design has something similar where they have, I guess it's a 24 grid system. So theirs are based on like, you can kind of visualize there's like 24 columns. So if you did column 12, that's going to give, that's like half of the available space. So I could kind of look at how they do their columns. So are they just doing a, and like I haven't done Ant Design for a while, so I don't definitely do not have this like memorized or really know what I'm doing. But with this, it looks like we just give it a, can give it a row component. With a gutter. So a gutter is just kind of like the space around, it's kind of like the padding. And then the column, it looks like I can give it a span. Let's kind of see some other examples. Looks like we could also use, this kind of looks like it's like using flex. Justify center. Yeah, so you can really, when you start getting into like the grid system, this can like really get complicated. So, and this is kind of a cool little demo. So with this, you can kind of see what the horizontal gutter is doing. See how it's getting like horizontally, it's giving you that space between the columns. If you do the vertical gutter, that's going to give you that vertical spacing. You can do a column count. I wonder how like the responsive stuff. I think with here, they're you can also with Ant Design, you can give them like you can give the columns like how many columns do you want it to take up on an extra small screen or a large screen. So let's try just messing around with this for a second. So what I'm going to do is let's just go ahead and grab a row and a column. So let's do this in our cities page. So I'm going to grab my row from Ant Design. Right here. And then let's also grab a column. So I'm going to wrap all those all those cards in a row and a column component. See if that changes anything. Oh, I need to import these. Something's blowing up here. I'm going to clear this. Cannot read properties of null map. I just want to make sure that it's breaking it. What did I just change? I'm also going to get rid of the set timeout because we kind of tested to see that that was working. I think so when something I just did has broken this. So let's see, cities line 62. Can't read. So what it's saying right here, can't read properties null of map. So that's line 62. It's probably somewhere, I think it's thinking like the city properties is null. What? What happened? What did I do? What did I just change here? Not. So I don't know what is going on here. So I'm going to log city properties because I'm wondering if this is null. Since I have a lot of errors going on, let's just leave us a null message. So I'll select the city property. Okay, so yeah, that for some reason is now null. So that's my error. Why is this null? I don't know what I just changed to have that happen. Let's see, let's since it's time, let's go ahead, let's take a break. And I'll kind of troubleshoot this for a second. Let's go ahead and come back at 11. See if I can figure it out by then. But the issue here is this city property, I don't know why, for some reason now it's null when we get to this point. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So I did find the issue. So what I was doing is I was actually setting city like before this API call, this Axios call. And then I was using the city here. So then what was happening was, and this is where use state can get a little, it can be, you know, kind of a little unpredictable, is, you know, when I first wrote it, it was working probably because, I don't know, because it's, when code's asynchronous, you can't always guarantee when it's going to finish. So this was getting set, but I guess enough time was passing, like where I was still able to set my city properties. And then all of a sudden it stopped working because my city was set before my city properties was set. So a couple things I chose to do was just to move this set city down here after this Axios call. I'm not really even using this city value, this state, so I can probably get rid of it. But then I also am going to switch this to, if I don't have city properties, I'm going to say loading cities. Something like that. Because then now I'm doing the check, like, actually probably if I don't have city properties, I can just like return, but loading cities or select the city is what this will say right now. Okay. Another thing I did as well, and I'm going to, let me just slack out this cities page. Kind of did some of this during the break. So just going in lines with ant design. So I have the row, and then inside of where I'm mapping over my property cards, I'm going to wrap those in a column. Now, this is just more of a demo. This isn't like, this doesn't really look great, but it's just kind of shows you what you can do with ant design. So I can actually, for my columns, I can say, hey, you know, if this, I can make it responsive. So if my screen size is small, I'm going to say, hey, take up the full width. If it's medium, take up half the width. If it's large, take up a third of the width. And take 24 out of 24 if it's small, take 12 out of 24 if it's medium, take 8 out of 24 if it's large. Now, like the card component itself has a fixed width, so it's not going to stretch by default. So if I look at, what this does, so yeah, now it says it's either loading cities or select the city. So I can select my city, it's going to load. So now notice when I have a large screen, it's taking up 3 columns. Once I get to a medium-sized screen, now the cards are taking up half. And like I said, these cards are a fixed width, so they're not going to stretch. But now each of these columns are taking up, I can go even inspect, find that, probably this column. See how these are now taking up half of the space. If I then go to like a small size, now it's getting that, hey, take up all of the length. take up all the width. So there's kind of like a little responsive grid.
Can you Slack out your property card component? I didn't see it on GitHub yet.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't pushed this up yet, so let me just format this. I need to set up my formatting. Okay. So there is that. We have a little drop down, where we should be able to select a city that should be able to do our Axios call. Set our properties. And we should render them. So I would say, as far as like the front end is concerned, other than our back end not being done, this feature is pretty close to being complete.
I think you just Slacked out your cities page again.
Oh, I didn't. Okay, sorry. Command A. Thank you. So I am going to push this up. Now, something I haven't been doing is I haven't been committing, which may or may not be a bad thing. I mean, I would say this is a decent, like in the real world, this is like a good amount of work to commit. I'd say this would be a good time to commit for sure. But I have this little feature done, or close. So now I am going to do a git add and dot, because I kind of reviewed those. I'm going to do a git commit -m. And then I can push this up to my city's front end branch. And I'm going to wait to merge this to GitHub. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to close out all of this. Cool. So like if I was the front end developer, maybe I'd like wait to merge it, because maybe I would want this to be have the back end done first or whatever, but I could still push this up to GitHub. I could merge it to master. That's kind of like, would be a team decision. Like maybe we do want this to master, even though it's not fully complete, it is working. So, but I'm going to hold off on that for now. But I am going to do a git checkout master. So now I'm back on my master branch. Just want to show you, just to get like more some more practice with this. So notice when I'm on localhost 3000 cities, nothing's showing up. That's because when I check back to the master branch, that doesn't have any of the code I just wrote, because that's on the city's front end branch. So now I'm on the master branch, which is not up to date with that city's FE branch, which is fine. And I don't need to, like, I'm not going to merge the city's FE branch to master, because we're going to say it's still like kind of technically a work in progress. But what I am going to do is I'm going to check out to another branch. And this is going to be the city's backend. So you could kind of think of this like I'm two different people, and like this could have happened at the beginning of the day for both of us, where, you know, the front end developer checked out to the front end branch and started to work on the front end feature. And simultaneously, like I checked out to the back end branch and I'm working on that simultaneously. So if I'm working on the back end, or like I'm starting a new feature, you know, I want to throw this in the in progress. Just make sure, just to review what we're doing, we need to decide how to send data back. I think we've already done that right here. We're going to want to figure out how to do the custom SQL and SQL Electron. This one actually is going to be a little easier. So, and then we're going to set up a route controller method for an API call. And yeah, connect the custom SQL if need be, and then test our app. So let's go ahead and sorry, let's go ahead and do that. So we have, and these ones are going to be a little more straightforward SQL calls. We still will use SQL for this. So let's go ahead and I'll just start from scratch here. Go ahead and open up SQL Electron. Can connect to our server. Then we're going to want to connect to our, whatever you called your database, to the development branch. Now we can come in here and start writing some SQL. Okay. So if we do a select, you know, star addresses. Like, because we're doing the first one where we want to grab all of our cities. So I want to do a select city from addresses. That gives me all my cities. And then I could just do a distinct. Cool. So that could be our first one. Just grab all the distinct addresses. Or sorry, all the distinct cities. Cool. The second call, actually kind of forgotten what our database looks like. So let's go to our Trello board. What do we need? We need the price, the beds, bath, and square footage, right? But we also, since we're grabbing the properties by city, we're still going to need to do a join, because what I'm talking about is for this call is once we select a city, we want to grab the price, beds, bath, and square foot for that city. So all of the information we want to show is on the properties table, but we're actually still going to want to do a join, because if we go back to our chart, our city is on the address table. So I want to get the price, beds, bath, and square footage. But I'm going to want to do a where statement where, you know, the city is equal to whatever city was given to us. So let's kind of look at this call. So this would be our first one. This is our API/city. And then we're going to do our second call for this one, which is API/city. And then they give us a city. So first of all, we're going to want to select the price. Let's also grab the ID too of the property. The ID, the price, the beds, square footage, properties. So that's all our properties. So let's grab the city information. So I'm going to do a inner join. Sorry, this after from properties. So we're going to do a inner join on addresses because that has the city information. Addresses. Let's call this as a. So we're going to join on our address dot. So our address belongs to a property. So I'm going to grab the property ID from our address and just set that equal to or match that on the properties .id. And now I should be able to get like the a dot city. ID is ambiguous, so this one is actually, I want to grab the properties .id. Cool. So now we're grabbing all of the properties, but we're also grabbing the city information. So what we're going to want to eventually, and for now, I'm just going to hard code this. So I'm going to do something like this where let's just hard code it like where city equals, I don't know, SLC. Oh, sorry, that needs to be a string. So now I can just grab, a given city. So that's why even though we're not going to show the city information in our table, we need to do the join because eventually I'm going to want to like grab this city information. So the other thing, so we're eventually going to do something like this where it equals like a dot city, but we'll get to that in a second. For now, let's just hard code this. So that's going to be SLC. Another thing we want to do is, this is actually where we want to grab the properties that have not been sold. This is not true. See, I might. Cool. So that would be a query to grab this. Grab a specific city. And I'm eventually, I should say a dot city. But, so there's our basic two queries for this backend. Can't remember if this is sensitive, if this is SLC lowercase. All right. Okay. So let's go ahead and try to throw this into our Rails app. So we kind of have these two queries going on. So let's do this first one. So I guess this would make sense to go in our properties model. So let's create two. Actually, I'll do these below here. Let's do a def dot get cities, I guess we could call it. And that one's just going to be this first one. Actually, if this is in our addresses, if I'm doing a select from address, that might make sense to go into the address model. So we'll do that in our address model. Let's do that here. Let's do something like this. Select all right. Save that. So since we're in the address model, it's going to do the from addresses. So let's now set up a route for this. So we're going to do a get cities. Is that what we said it was going to be? Cities. So do our get cities, and that can take us to, I forgot if we made, did we make an address controller? Maybe we did. We can just do this in our properties controller. Do properties. Let's call this get cities. Cool. So then in our properties controller, sorry, we'll do a def get cities. That's going to render JSON address dot get cities. So if we look at the changes, we have, let's start with the routes. So we have a get cities. That's in our name API namespace. That's going to take us to our properties controller to the get cities method. So in our get cities method, we rendered JSON address.getCities. So if we look at that, that's going to do our select distinct city. And this properties change I don't want to have, so I'll get rid of those. Cool. So let's test this one out. Start up my server. Let's go to localhost 3001. API cities. All right, undefined method gets cities for address class. Probably forgot the self keyword. So remember, without the self keyword, this is a instance method. So I want to make this a class method. I'll do that with the self keyword. Cool. So there we go. That's coming back as this array city Draper IDs null. So maybe something I'd want to do here, if since I just said I would get back, like an array of items, I could do something like this. Let's see if I can just do like a cities equals this, and then do like a cities dot map. Oh my gosh, it's been a while since I've done a map in Ruby. Let's see if that does it. There we go. So what I did here is I just stored the SQL call to the cities variable, and then I just mapped over it. And you notice I was like city had a city key. So that's what I'm doing. I'm mapped over and I'm just returning the city.city. And now that's just returning that array of data, array of strings, which is how we at the start said, hey, let's have this render out like this. So yeah, the map, after writing so much JavaScript, it's so weird because like, in JavaScript, it's always like return. But remember, Ruby implicitly returns stuff. And actually with a map function, you definitely don't, putting a return inside of here is going to break stuff. So there's that first call. Looks good, getting our unique cities. So let's go ahead and do our second call, which is to actually this one. So when they give us a city, we're going to go ahead and run this one. So let's go ahead and define this in our routes. So someone does a GET request to cities, and then they pass us the city. Let's take that to properties. Let me see, what do I want to call this? Let's just call this city.
You're missing your 2.
Oh, thank you. Cool. So now in our properties controller, let's define that method. Def and city. And here we're going to render JSON. We'll do this on our property model property dot. Let's just switch up this name by city. Now this method, we're going to want to pass it that param we got, that city params, right? Because this route is expecting, well, it's going to have like this :city. That's going to be the actual city that's being sent to us from the front end. So we're going to create this by city method that's going to take that we're going to be able to pass that param to. So then in our property model, we'll do a def by city, which accepts a city. And paste in this. Cool. Let's just for like clarity's sake, let's just render let's just write here. I'm just going to return the city for now, just so we can see this. I just kind of want to show what's going on with this passing this params. So let's go ahead and test this. If I go to cities: city, let's go back, API cities, and then I give it, whatever. Undefined method by city. Did I forget the self keyword again? I did. Self dot by city. Okay. Let's refresh. See that params, that :city, and what it's returning. It's just whatever I pass as that param right there in the URL. So, but yeah, what we're kind of expecting is that to be an actual city. So now I can do my SQL, select. I'm just going to copy all of this. So I don't need this, since I'm in the property model, I don't need to do that from. So let's do the dot joins. Just going to copy all of this, the inner join. And then I'm going to do the dot where. Copy this. Okay, now instead of saying SLC, I want to now use this value. So I'm going to do a question mark. And then I'm going to pass the city. So what this, and this is part of like this where function. So what I can do here is I can, this where function, I can pass it a string as the first argument, but then I can, after I can just pass it, as many arguments as I want. And what it's going to do is it's going to, wherever there's a question mark, it's going to throw in that city value here. I could also probably just interpolate it like that and do city. That would probably work too. But you'll also see it written like this, where I'm going to use a question mark and I can throw in the variable. If I had another question mark inside of here, you can do multiple, then it just kind of goes in order. So the first question mark would be city, the second question mark would be X. Set that back to true. All right. So now that's working. So now if I do API cities to Draper, that's giving me all my Draper ones. If I do SLC, that's working. I think we're going to get into an issue though, like how do we necessarily want to like maybe do the casing? Provo doesn't have any, but I think we do have capital Pro. I don't know, do we? Levels 3001. No, it does that. We're going to get into an issue with the capitalizing. I wonder if we could do lower. All right. Actually, I think what we can do is, since we're sending back, I don't think we need to worry about it. Since we're sending back the cities as is, with our front end, we just don't need to do anything with that. So we'll be getting them back the same way we want to send them. So I would say, I think this is complete. We've tested it. I think it's working good. So now we can go and come into our code. Do we get add dot, get commit dash M. Do I get push origin cities backend? All right, so now I can go to GitHub. And like if I was kind of following through with Trello, you know, I'd be like, okay, this is ready for QA review. So just to kind of review, like the tasks are complete. I should have pulled from master. It's a good idea to pull from master before you do a pull request, just to make sure. It's just to get like, I think it's going to be, you can do any of like the conflicts before you pull up. It's also another good reason to pull from master before you push up to your branch and create your pull request. Maybe there's a change on master that someone else did that has some effect on your thing you just did. So it would be actually, you know, pull from master and then kind of test your code. Did pulling from master break anything? Get any of the conflicts resolved, and then you can push up, create your pull request. So that's what we're going to do now. That's the wrong one. I'm on the wrong one. I'm on the fall one. So I can go to my backend. Done. usually like a lot of times this like pull request, there might be like a half a page worth of stuff you're throwing in here. Kind of just glossing over that. It's more like your company might have like a specific like outline to follow for creating a pull request. But I think at a minimum, what we could do is come in here and, you know, throw in the Trello card that is associated with this pull request. So I would create the pull request. And then, yeah, it would be, now at this point, it'd be like someone, I would say, hey, there's a pull request. Can someone review this and merge it to master? At this point, like as the backend developer, it's not my job to review it and to merge it. So someone else would come by. They could look at the files changed. Cool, that's, you know, all of this work that is done with this pull request is like associated with this feature. And that's good, that's what we want it to have. Then I could just go ahead and merge. So now on GitHub, that's been merged. So we have the cities backend is done. So then as the backend person, I might be like, oh, hey, front end person, I know you were working on this feature. The backend's done, FYI. Go ahead and pull from master. So if I was like, you know, working on, just say I'm now the front end person and I was working on the front end and like the back end person saying, hey, the back end's done, it's been merged to master, a bit cool. I'm going to pull that. Now I have those changes. As far as the front end person, well, now there's a couple things we could do, so it's still not quite done, but let's go ahead and check this. So cool. Let's see if we select the city. Getting a 404 here. Oh, that's because we have the wrong URL. But let me show you this. Just a couple things I would need to switch here. So we did this all with dummy data. So I'm going to get rid of the dummy data. Yeah, I'm not even using this state anymore. So I'm going to get rid of this as well. The set city. I'm also going to get rid of where my catch, where I'm alerting, where I'm setting the dummy data. So I'm just going to do like an alert here in get cities. Same thing here, alert in handle change. And I'm going to get rid of this to lowercase. I don't think I need that anymore. Cities. Because that was one, I put that in wrong when I first did this. We agreed it was going to be cities. And then I passed it to city. So those were the changes I made. I got rid of like where I'm using the dummy data. Don't want to do that anymore. Now I come in, hit refresh. Now this is actually the cities from my database. And then I come in, there we go. Now there are my properties for that city. Cool. I have this one little issue here. It's more a warning. So let's get rid of this. Check the render method of cities. So if you're seeing like this, each child should have a unique key prop. That's whenever you're mapping over something or you're creating a list of something. React wants a key prop. So that would be right here on this column. Key, don't I have, I think I have a gate back an ID on here. We'll see. It's clear. Cities, paper, cool. Something you might also want to do, like, especially like once you get to kind of like when you work at a company, I mean, console.logs are good, but for debugging, but you're not going to want to push those up to master. So those are for like debugging, for like learning. But once you got the feature done, or once you got it working, you know, you can get rid of those console.logs. So cool. So I'd say now this feature is done. And I'm on the front end. The front end looks good. So now with the front end, I could just go ahead, you know, add this last commit. Add dot get commit dash m hooked up to backend. Origin, not origin master. Now I'm going to do another push to my cities. Dash. Well, I mean, really what, I mean, it's, you know, what would be really nice to do is to do another final get pull origin master. Obviously, I don't have any changes, but pull from master, go retest it, make sure it's all working, even with the new changes from master, and then do a get push origin cities FE. And now we can do the same, you know, merge request process. So the description here, Trello card, etc. Create the pull request. You know, at this point, you know, this feature would be ready for QA review. That's go ask someone to go review it. They would review it, and then they would merge it. And now GitHub has that change. So then in my terminal, I do a get checkout master. Now I would do a get pull origin master. Now my master right now on Git on my computer, right now it does not have the front end changes that we just did and the back end changes. So I definitely need to pull and grab all those changes. Cool. So now my master on Git is up to date, and I can start going through the same process again, where, yeah, and these could, and once these are on GitHub, then I move those over to like, oh, these are completed. And then we could go ahead and start on this one. So let's start on this one, but before we do this, I think this is a good stop to take a break, and we'll just leave this on deck, and then we'll kind of review it before we get started on it. So let's go ahead. Yeah, let's take a break. Let's come back at like, we'll call it 12:05. And we'll probably get done with this buyer's back end and yeah, we'll kind of go from there. All right. Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. See how much we can get done before lunch. And for this, I might mix and match a little of the back end and front end for this, just kind of do them at the same time, more or less. But let's just kind of review before we start what we want, what this buyer's back end or what this buyer's page is. So it's kind of where we're able to first select an agent. Let me stretch this. All right. So we're going to have agents, and we're going to do something just to get a little more.
Can you share your screen, please?
Oh, thank you. We're going to do something a little more, just to get some SQL practice, or just do another demo with SQL. Because, I mean, really getting all the agents, that could just be an agent.all. But for our agents, let's go ahead and actually grab back our agents with, so we're going to do this in SQL. We're going to get all of our agents, but we're also going to get how many unsold properties how many sold properties they have. So it's going to be a little more complicated than describing all the agents. So for this, let's go open up SQL or SQL Electron. So first I want to just do like a little example before we do this full-fledged one. So I want to just grab sold from properties. Remember, sold is a field on our properties tables. It's either true or false. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count these true and falses. Like how many trues do I have? How many falses do I have? And I'm going to name this as frequency. I spelled that frequent. Oh, that sounds so wrong.
REQ.
There we go. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to do that from properties. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group these by that sold. So if we do a count, we need to group by a column. So I'm going to group by sold. Syntax there. Am I forgetting? Oh, I need to do, sorry. I need to group by sold, and then I need to order by count. And then we're going to use descending. And let me make, not that this matters, this needs, just so we can see these. What am I doing? Oh, I need a comma. That's my syntax there, right there. Okay. So this is how I'm grouping by these sold, and I'm kind of counting them. So like I'm going to keep track of how many falses I have and true. So it's a way I can kind of count how many times something is in, that's like, because with the sold, we saw sold can only be true or false. But then I can go through all of my properties, because remember I have 50 properties, and I can go count how many times is false in there and how many times is true in there. And so this count I'm naming as frequency. So I'm grabbing the sold value, but then counting this as frequency. So this is how just a little mini demo to how we're going to get that from our like how many agents have their sold properties. So let's go on from that, and let's go ahead and just now grab our agents. So let's grab our agents .id. Let's also grab, first name, last name, email. So we're going to grab these from our agents. Right, that kind of be like an agent.all in if we were doing that in Rails. But now we also want to grab, kind of going to combine a little of this, like this sold. So remember, sold is from properties. So let's do our inner join. Properties as P, as P, and then we're going to join on our property dot agent underscore ID equals our agents dot ID. All right. Where's my syntax error there? Invoking P. Oh, I need an on. So what we're really kind of doing, like, so remember how I think our agent has 5 properties. So like Kurt has 5 properties, and these are all, looks like he has none of them that are sold. Like Mercedes has 5 properties. Looks like 2 of them are sold. So I don't want to get back this list of just like this, multiple Kirks in here. I just want to get back a unique Kirk, but then with the count of how many, like give me the count of, sold for Kirk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something similar here. So I'm going to grab sold and I'm going to count this as well. And we'll just also call this frequency, or we could call it like, yeah, let's call it frequency. So I'm going to join. So now I'm grabbing this count. If I run this, if I do the count, it's going to say, hey, I need a group by clause. So what we're going to group by is all of that agent's information. So we had the essentially like all of this agent stuff. All right, and then we're going to also order by count. Do this for the sending too.
Could you also order it by frequency, or do you have to call the count?
Order by, I think you could do frequency. Let me double check though. Yeah, you could do frequency. Because that frequency is just an alias for that.
So since you're doing it right after the sold comma, it knows that you want this to count the sold in the frequency.
Yeah. So now we're getting the frequency of, oh wait, I need to also do I forgot one step here. I need to do the where sold is not true. So this is actually this is going to give you back where the sold is not true. So it's giving us that count. So like Ike Orrin has 5 unsold properties. So it's kind of giving you know, like a priority to like we're kind of like saying like, let's get back all the agents who have not sold any properties. And that's how we're ordering them by. So I can slack this one out, but what we're going to want to do is throw this one out into our Rails app. So if we go to Rails and also I'm not going to, just for time's sake, I'm not going to branch. Let's just do this on master. But normally like I should branch this to like a, you know, find homes backend branch, but I'll just do everything on master right now. So what I'm going to do is let's go to our property model, or maybe I think this might, since this would probably make sense to go in our agent model. So let's just do this like def, call this like unsold homes. And this, I keep on forgetting the self keyword. This is going to be a class method again. And then end. Then my select. And throw all this inside of here. My dot joins. All of the join statement in the side of there. Dot where. And do a group. And then a dot order. Cool. The next thing we would want to do is, you know, create a route for this. So let's, I believe we made an agents controller. Oh no, I guess this could be an index method. So for our index, we're getting all our agents. So render JSON agent dot unsold homes. And then, yeah, in our routes, I mean, I could just say get agents to agents index, or I could do resources agents only index. That is just going to create this route that's going to do a get to agents. That would take us to agents indexed. These two do this, that's the same thing. All right, so if we look at our changes, we have added this line where we added our index method for our agents. So we've added that route. In our agents controller, we render JSON agent.unsold homes. And in our agent model, we define that unsold homes class method. I have my server running because we could go test this. Localhost 3001 API agents. I mean, this. Yeah. So that's our data. That kind of gives us back what we need. So, so if we look at that, that gives us all our agents, our buyers. We're just going to do let's just do our buyers really quick, and then we'll move on to the front end. So for our buyer, when we select an agent, that should grab all the agents buyers. And for that, we're not going to do anything special with that. Let's just go ahead and, since we have our association set up, let's just set up this route. So when we do this, what we're going to want to do is we're going to do a get agents, and then we're going to do an ID. To agents show. What's another way I could do this route?
Just add it into the array on line 9.
Yeah, I could come right here and do show. That would do the same thing. So that's a way I could, add that, and that would be there. So now that route is set up, we can go into our agent controller, to our def show, render JSON agent dot. See now, this is our traditional show method, and I'm like, how do I do this again? I want to, so this method, remember, I want to, what I'm trying to do is show all the agents buyers. So I'm going to do the agent.find params ID. So that's going to find my agent. Now remember, we have this has many association, or an agent has many buyers, so I can just do that. Find that agent and then render that agent's buyers. So no custom SQL there, that's just some real stuff. So go in and test that out. Localhost 3001 API agents. We have one with ID 5, so sure, let's go ahead and use that one. And there's that agents buyers. Any questions on that? Let's do the last SQL call. So, and do the last backend thing just to get done. So the next thing we're gonna do, so we grab the agents sorted by unsold homes, then we grab that agent's buyers. And then once we select the buyer, then we want to go see all, we want to see the properties that match the desired cities and that are under their price range. So let's, I mean, even though we're just grabbing the price, square footage, and city, you know, there's some more stuff we're gonna have to do with SQL because we got to make sure that we got to find all the properties that match their desired cities and their price range. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's just once again do this in SQL Electron. Okay, so what we're going to do is let's just first select, you know, like the buyers.id. Maybe like the buyers first name. Just kind of get this going from buyers. Cool. There's my buyers. Let's also maybe grab cities just so we can see that and like the max price. So buyers have, you know, desired city and how high they're willing to spend. So let's go ahead and grab some agents. So we're going to do an inner join on our agents. And do that on our agent.id equals our buyers agent underscore ID. So that should give us some agent first name. So I could do like agent first name. Well, now I have two first names, so I need to alias one of them. So I'll just alias this as like agent. First name. So now here's our buyers and like there's the agent for these buyers. So now we have some agent information. Let's go ahead and do another inner join. So we're going to want to get properties. So we want to get, we want to match the agent ID with the property's agent ID. So I'm going to do the property.agent underscore ID equals my agent.id. So now that's going to grab all those properties from that agent. So I can do like, now I can do things like price, square footage, and what else do we want? I think that's all we really wanted. Okay. So now some price and square footage information. So we can keep going on with this. So we also want to grab our cities. Like what city are these properties in? So this, remember this city's right here. That's on the, that's on our buyer. That's like their desired cities. But now I actually need to grab the city of a property, and that's on our address table. So we're going to do this. We're going to join our address dot property underscore ID equals our property dot ID. We're also going to do this. We're going to do an and city equals any. So what we're going to do here, this is how we're going to eventually throw in the desired cities. But for now, I'm just going to hard code this, and we're kind of going to wait until we get to Rails to actually throw this in. So let's just for now like hard code in like SLC. Cool. We're going to do a where buyers.id. So we're going to want to match, because we're going to select the buyer. So we're going to want to match a buyer ID. So for now, I'm just going to like hard code one. Let's just do one. And sold. We don't want to show any properties that are sold. So we're going to say sold is not true. So there we go. Here's the property information. And we could also, maybe it might make sense to throw in the city. So what this is saying, like, you know, we have this buyer ID with a 1. And let's just pretend, even though this is not true, because they like Spire 1 is okay with SLC and Sandy. So we could throw in Sandy here. Sandy. So what we're going to try to do, or what we're going to do is we're going to get the buyer's desired city. We're going to throw those inside of here once we get to Rails. But so this is the buyer with ID 1. Here are the cities. Oh, I'm forgetting one other thing, the max price. So we're matching on the desired cities where they're not sold, but I also need to do on my properties. I want to do like a property dot price is less than my buyers dot max price. So that's going to filter out all of the properties. Because do I have like that's 71,000. See, like these properties are too expensive for this buyer. So that should not be there. I think this should only return this one, right? Yeah. This property is the only, oh wait, this one too. And where's my error? Cool. I think it just tried to run that one query. So there we go. So now that filtered out those properties that were too high a price. So there's our SQL statement for that. Cool. So I can go ahead and slack this one out. So I think for this one, we can go ahead and probably throw this in maybe probably the buyers. I think wherever you're doing your from, that's probably a good candidate for which model to throw this in. So let's go to our buyer model and throw that inside of there. So there's a couple things we need, like we're going to need to like figure out how to actually get the desired cities and the ID. but we're pretty close, so we can define this. Actually, let's go ahead and do the routes first. So let's do a resources to buyers, and this is going to be a show method. So then in our buyers controller, we can have a def show. Where we can render JSON. Buyer dot my call that. And we'll make it def self dot my homes. And then for now, we'll just return yo just to see if we got this hooked up. So what we did in our routes, we added a resources buyers only show. In my buyer component, we have this self.myhomes. So something we're also going to get with this my homes method is we're going to get a params ID, because this is the show method. Or we could also go in and find the buyer, say buyer equals buyer.find params ID. But I think this is all we really, I'll just comment that out, because that's kind of what that ID is. And so then in this buyer method, now this can take an ID. Just see if we can render that ID or return that ID for now. All right, so we go to agent or API buyers 5. Oh, undefined local variable, I'm missing the colon. Right there. And there we go. So now I'm able to pass that ID, or this parameter here, which I'm expecting to be an ID. So I have that hooked up correctly. But I'm going to do this. I do want this buyer. So what I'm going to send here is I'm going to send, we'll just use this, the buyer.id. I'm also going to send the buyer.cities. So we use the params ID to find the buyer, and we'll send that to this method, and we'll also send the cities. So then in the buyer model, now we're going to get as a second argument right here, cities. So I could return that just to show you this. So now if I give it an ID, it's going to give me that buyer's cities. Cool. Questions on that? All right, so now with those pieces, we can come through and try to finish this. So let's grab all of this stuff from my select. All right, let's do our dot joins. So I'm going to take all of this join stuff throw it in here. Need to get rid of those comments. Cool. But this right here, I need to switch this up. So I'm going to do is I'm going to just do these brackets, and then inside of here I can write some Ruby. So I'm just going to interpolate. Actually, I need to make this a double quote if I want to do interpolation. And I'm going to have to rewrite this. Okay. These. I'm going to throw this inside of here. Cool. And yeah, now instead of hard coding this right here, what I'm going to do is delete these strings, and then I'm going to interpolate my cities that I got here, and I'm just going to join them. Remember, join is just going to take in an array, and then it's going to join them and convert this into a string. So that's how I can get that, my array of cities, into a string separated by commas. Then I can do a dot where. Then I can grab this one. Buyer's ID is equal to 1. Well, I don't want that to be a 1. I can do my question mark. I don't want the semicolon there either, and I can pass it the ID. Cool. So for this method, I just needed to pass it the ID of the buyer, and then the array of cities, desired cities. Just convert that cities to an array, a string separated by commas, and then switch out that ID where I hard coded it into SQL. And there we go. If I now pass it the ID, now I'm getting back the properties. Some might not have, properties that match their price range or desired cities. But that is now complete. Cool, so now I'm just going to go ahead and add that. Push that up to master. I need to commit. Like my home's backend. So I think with a lot of these SQL stuff, we kind of did, I'd say something like this counting and, this any stuff. That's a little more detailed. I would say when you're working with this custom SQL stuff, really pay attention to, I think right now, the joins. I think it's kind of a good little use case for it. And it's something you use quite a bit for sure. You use all the time are some joins. And yeah, I think a lot of the other stuff, maybe like how do you match, an array of stuff or like a set of stuff. I think that's really going to utilize Google to help you with some of those more specific things. But yeah, I mean, I think that this is a good place to stop. Tomorrow we can go through and do the front end for this much. So yeah, are there any questions with this? Is this a lot?
Is it better to do all of this formatting of your data with SQL on the back end than just trying to narrow stuff down more on the front end?
I really think that's like dependent on your use case. I know like Teleperformance, they kind of had a really the mindset of like they would give back so much data that was like it was so had so much of like join table data, and it was just like, okay, front end, you do a whole bunch of the stuff. I mean, I think they were doing like a ton of crap on the back end, you know, as far as the SQL is concerned, but it really just comes down to like, I think a lot of it comes down to is how big your database is, how much data do you have? Because something like this, I do think we could create like pretty much one query and just get back all the data for the front end, and then the front end could figure it all out. But yeah, I don't, there's really not like an answer. It just kind of, it's like, it depends on your use case and kind of almost like the style of your company. If you're like a full stack developer and you're kind of in control of both, it's really up to you. It's kind of going to be like, how do you want to do it? But I definitely think like the back end people are probably going to have more of a say than the front end people. Because I was always like, well, why are you giving me the data back like this? It'd be so much easier if you give it back to me like this at Teleperformance, as far as the front end concerned, because I had to do so much of like that normalizing stuff. But they're like, well, it's more efficient this way. And they really did have them. I think they liked the idea of like, you would have to maybe wait 10 seconds because it was so much data. When you first opened up like their app, you'd have to like wait 10 seconds or so for like their AP, for their database call to finish. But then you would have all the data, and then you could just do whatever you wanted with it on the front end. But if you're someone like, I don't know, if you're someone like Amazon, you probably want to like, you know, when you be more specific. So when you go click on like, like an item to go buy, or like when you're shopping, it's going to be very quick. So they probably have a lot more specific stuff like this. But yeah. But as for now, for like what you're doing, it's really going to be your decision, your choice, especially for like the portfolio project. Because yeah, I feel like with this call right here, you could almost just like, if you get rid of like I don't know, you could get rid of some of this stuff. Where you're just like going to be sending back like essentially all of your database. Like, because these are all of our tables. So I feel like you could almost have all of your information right here. Now there's going to be a lot of duplicate stuff in here, and that's fine. But like, Kirk is the agent. That's the buyer, that's their max price, that's their cities. This is the ID of the property, I believe, and then this is the city city, property square footage, property price. Like, I really think we could, with this call, we could get back all the data and we could just have one API call and it's like, here's all your data. Go build out all the features you need to in the front end. Now, this would probably be a bad idea if you were Amazon. But like Teleperformance they want to get back all their data, but they would do like these really like big API calls and they would take like 10 to 20 seconds. Like when you logged into our website, because it was like you were getting back like, over, 250,000 records back. It's probably not the best way to do it, but I think it worked for them. Cool. Any other questions? Sweet. If that's it, we can take lunch. Let's just go ahead. We'll give you a little longer lunch. Let's just come back at 2 o'clock. Sound good? Cool. All right. Have a good lunch, everyone.